There are a lot of different options that you can choose to stay connected with your friends and family when you travel to other countries, such as using your cell phone carrier's international data plan, purchasing a local SIM card at the country you're visiting, or using a mobile hotspot. In today's video, I want to share my experience with using a mobile hotspot when traveling internationally. So a mobile hotspot essentially just gives you a data plan so that you can use the internet in similar ways that you normally would to stay connected, such as checking your email, surfing the internet via your web browser, or social media applications such as Facebook, Instagram, and things like that. One drawback of using a mobile hotspot is that you're not able to make phone calls to other people in the same way that you would use your phone in your home country. So you would have to use the VoIP, I believe that stands for Voice over Internet Protocol, to connect with your family members. So using applications such as WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Skype, those applications use the VoIP so that you can have video or audio calls with someone using that same application. So I have rented a mobile hotspot for a couple different international trips that I've taken over the years. Once to Italy in 2019, and then my most recent trip, Rome to Barcelona, which I've talked about in my most recent videos already. So you've probably already heard me talk about that trip, but I did rent a mobile hotspot for that trip. I have used the same company for both of those trips, Travel Wi-Fi. They were previously named TEP Wireless, if you are familiar with them, and they have renamed to Travel Wi-Fi. When renting a mobile hotspot from Travel Wi-Fi, you do have to indicate the travel dates that you plan on traveling, as well as the countries that you plan on visiting. And that is so they can ensure that they have a device available for you, as well as that you will have coverage for your trip. They service over 200 countries, but you never know. There could be a country that you're planning on visiting that they may not have coverage for you for data. So in 2019, the average daily price that I paid was $8.95 a day. I did upgrade to 4G, as well as there was a shipping fee of $5.95. So my total for a 12-day trip was $136. I did get a 10% discount at the time, so that made my overall total in 2019 $126 to rent the mobile hotspot. Now for my most recent trip in 2022, the daily price was still $8.95. However, the speed increased to 5G, so same price per day, but a little bit faster speed. The shipping rate did increase, so instead of just paying $5.95 for having it sent to me and shipping it back, did have to pay a total of $16, $8 each way to have it shipped to me, as well as return the device. Now, Travel Wi-Fi does have some physical locations in which you can drop off the device at the end of your rental period, so you do not have to pay that second $8 to ship the device back to them. And the end of my trip was Barcelona, where there was a location. However, I decided not to drop off the device at the end of my trip, but instead wait until I returned home in case I had any trip delays. One of the countries that I had a connecting flight was Amsterdam, so I wanted to make sure that I had data and I could communicate with my friends and family in case my flights were delayed in Amsterdam or any other countries. So I did pay that $8 to ship it back. Now, the mobile hotspot from Travel Wi-Fi does allow you to connect up to 5 devices. So in 2019, I had my cell phone and a tablet. My most recent trip, I had my cell phone again and my laptop at this time. But something really cool that could make this a benefit for families or groups that are traveling together is that you could share the mobile hotspot and kind of share the cost as well. So on my trip to Italy in 2019, I did share some of the cost of this hotspot with one of my friends I was traveling with. One downside is if you decide to deviate from what you want to see. So if you want to see different sites from your friend or family member, then one of you is going to be without being in range of the hotspot. So whoever is carrying the device with them and the other goes somewhere else, you're going to be out of range. And so you won't have access to the hotspot at that point in time if you decide to kind of go different ways a particular day of your trip and you're not together. But if you're planning on staying side by side, not necessarily attached at the hip with your friends or family in which you're sharing the hotspot, but if you're traveling to all the same places and staying relatively in the same location, then it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But that is something to be aware of, is that if you want to go to a museum that one of your friends or family members does not want to go to and you're not the one carrying the hotspot with you, you may not be connected to that data plan. So once I actually landed at my destination, setting up the hotspot was relatively easy. You just click the power button, wait for it to power on, and then you go to your phone or device and find the network listed under the Wi-Fi network list, and then enter in the password that it comes with, and it should connect pretty seamlessly. I did not have any issues either time in 2019 or my most recent trip connecting to the hotspot. Now, I will say in my most recent trip, although I was able to connect at the airport once I landed and was able to send my sister a message that I landed, as well as check some train station timetables on the internet, once I got to the city center of Rome, Google Maps, for whatever reason, was very slow to update as I was walking from the train station to my hotel. So it took me a little bit longer than what it really should have because I was trying to understand what turn to make next because it wasn't updating quickly. But after the first day, I really had no issues having fast, reliable data in using maps, contacting via message or audio calls with my friends and family, connecting to social media apps. No issues. I was able to access the internet in some locations where the people I was traveling with were having issues connecting with their cell phone carrier's data plan. So it worked in a lot of cases where other people's data plans didn't work. So that was a plus for using the mobile hotspot. The only other time that I had some issues would be in Florence, in one of the alleyways with the stone buildings blocking the signals. I had some connectivity issues walking down in some alleyways, but really nothing that didn't get resolved in a couple seconds to a minute and just getting out of that alleyway. So that's just one of the drawbacks in older cities with the high stone buildings. They can block connectivity issues, but that's not unique to mobile hotspots. You'll find that with other cell phone data plans and SIM cards and things like that. So overall, using a mobile hotspot had a lot of pros. I could connect multiple devices, could save some money and go in with friends or family to share the cost of it. I had no issues really connecting or using the data at any point on either of my trips. However, there are some cons, and one of the cons being the cost. If you're not going to share the cost of it with one of your friends, you may be stuck with that cost just yourself. And some cell phone carriers do have cheaper international data plans than what this mobile hotspot, at least the one that I went with, offered. So that's something to consider. If your personal cell phone carrier has an international data plan that's cheaper than this, maybe use that or use both, supplement. But that's something to consider, is that the cost may not be budget friendly compared to other plans out there that you may have available to you. Another downside that I see with the mobile hotspot, specifically from travel Wi-Fi, since you had to indicate your travel dates, there's a little bit of inflexibleness with being able to extend your travel dates. So travel Wi-Fi does promise their devices to other people. There may not be any flexibility for you to request an extension of using this device. Now, obviously, if you request and get that extension, you will have to pay the additional daily rate for the device. So unless you have a solid start and stop day of your travel dates, then renting a mobile hotspot may not be the best option for you. Travel Wi-Fi does give you a 2-day grace period from when you return from your trip to mail off the device. That may or may not be a long enough grace period depending on how jet lagged or exhausted you are. So that is something to also keep in mind, is that you'll want to be on top of as soon as you return from your trip, going to the post office and mailing off your device to be returned. One of the biggest cons that I found with renting a mobile hotspot is the battery life, and it's another device that you have to carry around. So in addition to carrying your phone around, you're carrying the mobile hotspot around, as well as a portable power bank. The battery life of the mobile hotspot that I rented lasted about 8 to 10 hours, but on average it was about 8 hours. So after 8 hours, if I was out and about, I would have to make sure that I was plugging in the hotspot to my power bank to make sure that it charged and that I could continue to use my data plan. Now, if you watched my previous video of what I wish I would have packed on my most recent trip, Rome to Barcelona, where I had mentioned I wish I would have packed a second power bank, this is also why. Because between my cell phone and the mobile hotspot, I was using my one power bank to charge things throughout the day to make sure that I had enough charge. Ultimately, I had no issues with using a mobile hotspot. It's a great option, especially if you're traveling with your family or a group of friends that's going to go in on the cost, since you can connect up to 5 devices on a mobile hotspot. It could be a good investment to use a mobile hotspot for your next international trip. However, my international data plan through my cell phone carrier is now becoming more competitive and similar in price to a mobile hotspot. So I'm not sure if I will rent a mobile hotspot in the future, but it's something to strongly consider. So that's how I have stayed connected to my friends and family when I visit other countries. How do you stay connected to your friends and family? Do you use a mobile hotspot? Do you use your cell phone's data plan? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao for now.